Hello, dear listeners, Amy here. Just a note before we get into today's podcast. We are currently between studios, which means our sound might not be quite as pristine as usual, so our apologies for that. Hello, as usual, it's your host, Amy Lewin. Joining me today from Helsinki is Marianne Vikkula, Head of Delivery Unicorn Wolt. Marianne joined Wolt, one of Europe's only superapps, only 8 years ago, and last October took over as head of the company when co-founder and former CEO Miki Kuusi took on a new role as CEO of Deliveroo, which was, like Wolt, acquired by the American delivery giant DoorDash. But that's not all she has on her plate. She's also the chair of Slush, the iconic European startup conference, and a board member at Finnish design company Marimekko, which for anyone who's watching the podcast, you'll notice she is repping some clothing today. So Marianne, welcome to the Sifted podcast.
Happy to be here.
So Wolt began life delivering restaurant food to customers in Helsinki, and over time has expanded into delivering groceries, medicine, electronics, and offering services like revenue-based financing. What is next?
We're obviously very excited about what we are building. If we think about what are we actually focusing on, it's very largely been going beyond the restaurants, building the shopping mall in your pocket. So technically, think about your city where you live in. Anything local commerce, be it your local grocery store, local pharmacist, local florist. We want to help these very commonly SMBs to sell online, and not just through our own platform, but offering all kinds of tools for these entrepreneurs and merchants to reach a wider audience, which also means helping them build their own channels, as an example. And then the other major focus area for us for growth has been subscription. So offering a loyalty program to our consumers across the 30 markets that we operate in and offering savings to them.
So do they pay to be Wolt Plus members, or how does that kind of subscription work, and how do you see that evolving over time?
To simplify, yes, the program has a monthly fee that depends on the market or the country where you live in. But then through different kinds of partnerships, you might also receive this program free of charge as part of your membership to, for example, a credit card you have, like Revolut, or another telecom membership.
Interesting. And so you just mentioned Revolut, and you also earlier mentioned your plan to kind of help small businesses with services they might need, as well as helping them reach new customers via the delivery platform. I mentioned revenue-based financing in the intro, but what are some of the other aspects there? Would you go into banking? Would you go into having your own phone contracts? You know, what's the limits for Wolt when it comes to this shopping mall in your pocket vision?
So effectively anything that is local commerce on the long run is interesting for us. Right now, we've been focused on, as I said earlier, building tools for merchants to have you could almost call it a 360 operating system. And that includes, for example, us building storefronts. So tools for restaurants or grocery stores or florists to set up their own online shops for orders, and also getting access to delivery. And then you reference to capital. So offering our merchants access to financing to, for example, open a new location. And then obviously something you didn't mention that we're also exploring is autonomy, especially in logistics. So how do we then deliver things? We've been testing drones. Our US parent has a lab where we also invest in our own autonomous vehicles. And that's obviously very exciting.
So we could see Wolt delivery robots on the streets sometime soon?
Actually, we have been testing for some time already here in Finland, where I'm based, in a few cities. And if you would walk on the streets of Helsinki, you would actually fairly likely see a blue Wolt-colored robot.
Where else might the robots come next? I imagine there are some markets that are more complicated to launch them in than others.
Well, we've been building these technologies together with our partners. And I would say we've been happy to start from a market like Finland that, for example, in the winter has very snowy conditions. And they are definitely not the easiest of markets to make logistics like this work. So I'm quite confident that if we're able to make this work in northern parts of the Europe, this will also work out in southern parts or central parts of the Europe.
Interesting. I know you're not live in London, but I would be intrigued to see if a little delivery robot got vandalized here or not. And you've
We'll
also,
see.
you're also moving into some micromobility partnerships, aren't you? Why does that make sense as part of the offering?
Yes. So we talked earlier about our subscription program, Wolt Plus, that offers benefit savings for our customers. What we're seeing is that people are looking for convenience into their everyday lives. And we want to build our programs also be lifestyle programs. And hence we're going to look beyond just offering affordability on our platform to offering affordability on different kinds of use cases. And obviously urban mobility is very close to the use case Wolt originally, and it makes sense for us to work together. So hence we're now launching a partnership with Dott across multiple markets where users can get a free trial for them on our platform. So super excited about the simple, practical benefit that hopefully gives both savings, but then also just joy to the everyday lives.
So is that both scooters and e-bikes that people will get as part of that partnership? Okay. And how does it work in terms of, so there you're obviously partnering with another company. In other instances, you build technologies or you add new services in-house. How do you figure out when to build in-house versus work with others versus perhaps actually acquire another company that would add sort of a new element to the Wolt offering?
We obviously assess what's happening both in our industry, but also adjacent industries all the time. As I said earlier, we're basically interested in anything that's local commerce, but then we also acknowledge that we don't, or we shouldn't build everything ourselves.
And when we looked at other kind of super apps around the world, I know there's a few in Asia that are kind of looked to as the world leaders. What do they do that you don't that might make sense to be on your roadmap in the future?
Our industry is quite competitive, and there's a lot of companies across the world offering different kinds of services. I think the trends that I described earlier on going beyond restaurant, building subscription programs, very common amongst everyone. But then, especially if you go to Asia, you'll see that companies like ours have gone much beyond, and many of us have gone in Europe. You could take examples from travel. You could take examples of personal banking. You could take examples of even medicine, where some of companies like ours have built solutions. Right now, we're not building in this front. Could be someday. Let's see. But it would definitely clear us in Europe. The consumer offering on platforms like ours is not developed where it is, for example, in China.
Yeah. And so when a company is as sort of big as Wolt and has, such a sort of deep market share as you do, you're in 30 different countries and you're the leader, correct me if I'm wrong, in quite a lot of them. What are the main things that could trip you up at this point? Like, what are the main risks to a business like yours?
I often talk internally about the fact that we keep up with velocity. The reality is that the bigger you become, the easier it is to slow down, and fighting this internal friction of your scale and continuing to obsess about the customer, obsess about doing things rather today than tomorrow, and continuously raising the bar. Because the reality is that consumer expectations never go down, they only go up. So honestly speaking, I think us continuing to be very hungry, operating like a startup, no matter what scale we have, is the biggest thing to focus
And so how do you do that?
Well, then I guess we enter the leadership picture of a company like ours. we've really tried to emphasize, first of all, the importance of people. People who come and build the next stage, who are hungry, who want to move fast, who are also able to bring focus. And there's a lot of people out there, I feel like, who think that when you're building something or working on something, you have to choose between velocity, quality, and then cost, compromise on either front. But I think what I've seen is that when you have the right people in place, you can get it all at the same time. You just need to be very clear on what you're focusing on. And then you can build really world class very fast, and it can be also fairly affordable for you. A big job of a leader is to make it crystal clear where the focus is.
And how do you, with, Wolt's over 10 years old, you've presumably got some people who've worked there for a very long time. How do you manage that? How do you kind of continually, assess people, make sure they're still the right person to be in the role they're in? Do you have any? I remember interviewing the CEO of Bending Spoons, a big Italian company, and I don't know how much this is a gimmick, but every year he invites people to apply for his role, and he says that if ever anyone was sort of seemed like a better candidate to him, he would happily hand it over, which sounds like a little bit scary, but also got quite a good thought process, I would say, that anyone in the leadership team could be replaced if someone better came along. Where, do you have any kind of things like that internally that sort of really help keep standards high and keep people always pushing themselves?
Well, I think that's, first of all, a fantastic question. And we try to do this largely throughout people by growing our people. And I'm actually very proud. If you look at the team of Wolt today, we've been really a talent accelerator. There's so many people who've grown with the company, taken a lot more responsibility, grown with the company, and managed to probably get for much further than they ever thought. I guess including myself, I've never worked at a company that would be bigger than Wolt, so it's learning every day, and that's what we're really also looking out for. We're looking for people who have this continuous rookie mindset, that want to learn, because the reality is that we're all learning every day. One practice I could also share that I think has been a good learning for us has been that no matter what role we have, we always give it out for internal and external hiring. So we look for talent internally and give people opportunities, but at the same time also benchmark what kind of talent we external. And that gives a really good idea of kind of where's the bar for the problems we're solving right now, and is the better path now bring new talent or give further opportunity to who we have already today.
Interesting. And so you yourself are 7 months into your new role, because you were previously Wolt's chief operating officer. What's been the biggest challenge stepping into the top spot?
In some ways, my everyday life hasn't drastically changed. I was already before responsible for Wolt's business across the markets where we operate in, and a lot of the day-to-day cadences from are we hitting the plan, what we should do next, are pretty similar to what they used to be. What's been added on top, though, is a lot of media, some public affairs, and a lot of ambiguity, I would say. What I mean by ambiguity is when you look at business and you do A/B tests, it's often quite easy to make decisions. This is the budget, this is the learning we have from the test. If they scale this test, this is how much it's going to cost us. But then on the CEO table, you get more and more decisions that include risks, where it's not clear what's the outcome of the decision that we take. We have to take some risk. There's a PR or a policy element related to it. And the way to cut through noise is more often just a judgment call, where you need to have both think it out of a skin, know how much risk you can take and when it's the right time not to take a risk. And one thing we often say here is you need to know as a leader whether the decision you're taking is a one-way door or a two-way door. And what we mean by that is that most of the decisions are two-way doors. If it's a bad decision, you can reverse it. And if the decision is a smart decision, you should rather make as many decisions as possible and test. And if it didn't make sense, if it didn't work out, reverse. But then the decisions that are one-way doors, really hard to reverse, you very carefully weigh in before you make final calls.
And who's your sounding board? Who do you go to maybe if it's a one-way door decision, more of a judgment call, less, you know which way is the right one based on data. Who do you go to? Is it Mickey, the previous CEO? Do you have your own network of peers? Like how are you learning that more ambiguous sort of skill set?
So I'm very lucky to indeed continue having Mickey here at Wolt and DoorDash, and even if he's more engaged right now. And on top of that, we've hired a lot of people who are more experienced and better than I am in a lot of different domains, from security to communications, from public affairs to finance. So I feel like we actually have a very strong sounding board around that work well together in situations like that.
And so you've also been involved with Slush for over a decade, and you've held lots of different roles there, from CEO to CFO to board member and now chair. I think a question lots of people always have about Slush is, what is its secret sauce?
Yeah, indeed. My first Slush was in 2012. So it's 15 years that I've been engaged one way or the other. Last 10 years more as broad alumni and giving back to the community more than anything else. And I think that is actually the secret sauce, that the DNA of Slush is really giving back to the community. It's a non-profit student-driven movement that's main purpose is to help world computers forward. And what I've been also really, really proud to see and proud about is, given it's a volunteer movement, there's literally thousands of people every year who volunteer. And what we've seen, at least through my time, these 15 years, building Slush, is that the culture towards entrepreneurship has completely changed. 15 years ago, not many young people even considered becoming entrepreneurs. Okay? A large chunk of young 18 to 25-year-olds, mainly in Finland, because the conference is organized, actually consider entrepreneurs as a viable option. Almost half who consider that. So that's exciting. And then the other thing is that the core team of Slush, who actually works year round building the event, gets tools, skills, the talent needed to go and build their own company. Roughly 15%, 1/5 of Slush alumni have gone to found their own companies.
Do you know how many Wolt employees were previously involved in Slush?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have a good number for you, but especially from our early days hires, I mean, people who joined us around the time I did, a bunch of people were, including Mickey as both founder of Wolt, but also actually one of the founders of Slush. And then my predecessor as Slush CEO Riku also joined Wolt. So we definitely have quite a bit of people. And actually, if you look at the Wolt sounding team, large share of them were at least affiliated to Slush.
Interesting. And I think another thing people say about Slush is that lots of events sort of lose their relevance after a while. How do you think about that at Slush? How do you keep it current and keep it an event people want to come to, rather than it sort of, it's been going for a long time now, getting past its sell-by date?
That's the right question. It's actually a question we talk about with the team every year, all the time. And even with Slush in the early years, we were a lot about scale and how can we bring more people in. But then down the line, we realized that that's not the right metric to obsess about. The right metric is not how big you are, but how relevant you are. And we fully shifted focus size to relevancy. And Slush is actually almost half the size that it was at peaks, just by focusing on being super relevant. And what that has meant for Slush has been raising the level of the people who join the event. More and more focus on founders every year, bringing in more venture capitalists and other finance institutions to the event, setting up a PE track. There's so many things to talk about with a local or Slush team on the actual actions they've done to be on that road. But I think the first is just, it was, hey, relevancy over scale.
And what about the final question on Slush is, I feel like there have been criticisms some years that the event has felt too sort of American, or, there's been a real focus on getting investors from over there and founders from over there to this very European event. What do you think the right balance is there?
It's not an easy balance to strike. Why? As we all know, Europe still lacks, especially later stage venture capital. And the earlier stage of Slush, Europe even lacked early stage venture capital. So the reason for having a bunch of US focused has often been around getting access to capital. That's been a big focus. And then the other reality has been that there have simply been a lot of success stories coming out from the US, and we want to share those inspiring stories with the European founders. But at the same time, I'm also glad to say that if you look at the Slush stages and who's there is a lot of European representation across the board, and there's a lot of bubbly wonder European talent that we're super happy to showcase.
And final question, because we're out of time. You're a busy lady. What's the next big thing for Wolt? Is it are there some big market expansions coming up? Is it a big new product? Like what are the next big things on the roadmap?
It's really going deeper into the things that I talked about earlier. Sound in a way maybe dull, but at the same time I'm super excited about it. Why? I really feel like it's day one for us. So instead of adding the fifth or the sixth or the seventh use case right away, doing what we started doing really, really well, we still have a long way to go. As, for example, offering world-class grocery service, making sure you can get your full city available for you, all the pharmacists, toy stores, florists. We're not there yet.
Got it. Marianne, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you.
And as always, please rate, review, and share the podcast, dear listeners. And if you want to hear more about Wolt, grab your ticket for Europe's other greatest event, the Sifted Summit, where Wolt co-founder Mikki Kuusi, who I do believe is one of the most eloquent people in Europe's startup scene on company building and leadership, will be speaking. We'll drop a link in the episode description. And this episode was produced by the lovely Maya de Rampel Hornby.